Morning. Good.
What was the decision behind Garvin?
Unfortunately, it's just sometimes it's time to move on, and I know I understand the timing wasn't great in terms of it being his birthday, but you guys know this business never stops.
Now, it's been, I think, 3 years since Dave and Elton were consistently healthy, playing their best ball together. What could that do for your offense if you get both of them going at the same time again this year?
Oh, it'd be absolutely huge for our offense. I think when you look at those guys, you know, a couple years ago, I'd argue that was the best left side in football, and hopefully we can get back to that.
Matt, as versatile as Elton is, I mean, how did you see him settle in, you know, at left guard at the end of the year to kind of get back into a rhythm with Dave and sort of his own?
Yeah, I think that's always a challenge for these guys, especially when it's almost a blessing and a curse when you are that versatile. You can go play either tackle, center, either guard spot, and we've seen him do it. And he's a rare one in that case. But I think the more cohesive that group is, and the more experience they get together, and it definitely helps and kind of get them into their rhythm.
Matt, it looked like yesterday Lucas moved up a little bit. What have you seen from Lucas in the first few practices, and what do you want to continue to see from him?
Yeah, first of all, there's nothing set in stone. I mean, we've had 2 real practices, no pads, so we're going to be, you know, moving guys all over the place. And just because somebody's running with the 1s doesn't mean that's necessarily the case, and vice versa. If you're running with the 2s, I don't want these guys to even think about the depth chart at this point. The sole focus each and every time we go out there is to try to get better each and every day in everything they do. And in order to do that, you got to give max effort. You got to be deliberate about what you're doing. You got to know the ins and outs, the details, the why behind everything that we're asking these guys to do.
And we can all see Jordan and the offense's progress on the field, but how do you measure that progress, you know, in here and off the field?
Well, I think everything that we look at in regards to that position, or really all the positions, is just the process behind it. I'm not so caught up in the end result right now. Obviously, we are in a results-oriented business, and they are absolutely critical, but just a firm believer philosophically that if these guys have the right process and are you know, going through their reads the right way, are throwing it with the right rhythm and timing, I think that it's going to lead to a better result. And so that's where the sole focus lies with him and, quite frankly, all our players.
Watching 2-spot yesterday, I'm reminded that's a great opportunity for second and third string guys. Daniel's running it down there. It's also a lot of snaps to review after practice for the staff. How much do you rely on your position coaches to grade out those snaps, or do you guys watch some of that together as a staff after?
Yeah, we try to get in as quickly as possible. Each unit starts watching the tape, and you try to get through it all. Some days you can, some days you can't. And you know, we're on a tight schedule. We've got 11 hours with our players, and you try to cram everything in, and then you got meetings with our guys, and you got installs, so it's always a challenge. Usually when you have a day like yesterday, it gives you some time to go back and look at things if you missed it. But you know, we try to look at anything that we do out there, anything we film, whether it's individual, whether it's team, group, whatever it may be. We're always trying to put our eyes on it. And yeah, I expect our position coaches to watch everything. Anything that their group's doing, I expect that. It's hard to, as the head coach, to get to everything, but you absolutely 100% rely on your coordinators and your position coaches to see and own everything that happens within the group and that side of the ball.
Do you have any idea how many other teams in the league use 2-spot in their practices like that?
You know, I don't know. I can only speak on my past experiences, and that's something that we've incorporated a lot of different places. I remember going back when we first really started doing it was back in 2012 with Washington. You know, you had 2 rookie quarterbacks, and that was when we tried to get as much reps for those guys, or as many reps for those guys as humanly possible.
Matt, is that especially though valuable with the finite amount of time you have? And then you said you don't want guys thinking about the depth chart, but isn't there a built-in incentive there of, hey, I want to get off this field and go to the other one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that is part of their goal. But I would rather more them focus on the day-to-day, and, you know, there's going to be a time and a place when they get their opportunity, whether it be in practices or in those preseason games, to showcase what they can do.
Matt, historically, you've obviously worked with so many quarterbacks. We haven't seen a lot of Jordan in game, despite, you know, being here for 3 previous years. What do you, I guess, consider his strengths, or anticipate his strengths as a quarterback?
Well, I think that's something that we're learning, and ultimately, there's a lot of things that give us a lot of confidence in him that we've seen throughout the course of these last 3 years, and going into year 4, certainly watching the growth, not only as a football player, but as a man, and seeing his command out there on the field, I think gives us a lot of confidence in him. It gives his teammates a lot of confidence in him, and you know, he's not afraid of hard work. And to watch how far he's grown, and just understanding the nuances especially from, I would say, a protection standpoint, which is something that maybe majority of college quarterbacks don't have. It's not as complex as it is in the National Football League, and to see his growth in that regard, and we're throwing a lot at him right now, and it's hard to get. You know, we talked about this the other day. Just, you know, what's too much? How do you get him enough reps at every concept? It's a challenge, and so we've got to use, you know, our best guess in terms of, you know, are we giving him enough reps at whatever the play or the concept is to make sure that he's comfortable when he goes out there and is asked to execute that play. And it's not only him. It's the other 10 guys around him as well. So, and there's a lot of youth right there, and that's exciting because you never quite know what you're going to get.
I know you like to rotate your receivers through. What is your philosophy on a slot receiver? Like Alan Lazard was predominantly your guy last year, and he's obviously not the prototype of the position. Jaden Reed kind of is. Would you like to have, with some exaggeration here, just a slot receiver, or are you going to continue kind of that everybody plays that kind of role?
Yeah, I think it's just it all comes down to what are you asking them to do? Are you asking them to run choice routes? Are you asking them to, you know, big body whoever's in the nickel slot? You know, a lot of it is matchup based, I would say. Like when you had a bigger slot like a Lazard and you got a little nickel, then you feel more comfortable putting him in there, and he can go just with his sheer strength and win on some routes. Versus, do you have a really quick slot? Is the nickel a bigger nickel? Then it's all matchup based, and it's all predicated on what are we asking these guys to do, because there's going to be certain guys that you're not going to ask them to run a choice route, and you know it takes a certain skill set for that, as well as, you know, just being able to recognize the coverage and how to win on certain routes. So I would say that's a pretty complex question in terms of what's best, and there's a lot of different layers to it.
With the pads coming out on Monday, what are you kind of thinking in terms of the safety competition with Rudy, Dallin, Jonathan, and Tavares? How do you want to kind of get a look at each of them, ones, twos, et cetera? How do you want to kind of break down the snap work there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to be pretty fluid in regards to who's running with the ones, who's running with the twos. You know, we're gonna rotate those guys quite a bit. Obviously, the guy that's got the most experience is Savage out there, and he's had a pretty strong camp. I thought when he came back and throughout the course of OTAs, he had really grown, and we're hoping to see that continued growth when we get the pads on. So I think that's when things start to kind of clearly define themselves, and the separation starts to happen.
Dallin kind of jacked up his shoulder pretty early in camp last year and played through it. Is he a guy that can be more than just, you know, your special teams core guy if he's healthy and gets that shot?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it'll be year 2 for him in our system, which you'd like to see that jump. Anytime a guy transitions, whether you're a rookie coming to this league or you're coming from another team, a different scheme, you know, there's a learning curve to that. So hopefully with him being healthy, and he can really dive into our book and focus on the tasks that are asked of that position, and make some plays for us.
What do you want to continue to see from Kobe Wooden? Looks like he's going to be a key member of that rotation.
Yeah, he's a great kid first and foremost. I love his approach to the game. He's working, he's studying his butt off. When we're doing bed checks, he's always got his iPad open, studying the book, watching tape, and he's doing everything he can. And we're gonna have to count on him.
Stacy asked you about Jordan a minute ago. He's had a couple scrambles yesterday, but we haven't seen a whole lot of that, especially in the off-season stuff. I don't think he's scrambled. Well, okay, I mean Wednesday and Thursday.
I got you.
I guess the question is, are you asking him to play more from the pocket just for this, or are you?
I'm asking him to go out there and be decisive, and that is always a fine line of, you never want to take that freedom away from a quarterback. There's so much feel that goes into that position of when to scramble, when to step up, stay a passer. And so I think it's just a process of going through different experiences and, reacting to whatever it is you see. But I do think that in order to be an effective quarterback, you got to play decisively. You got to trust what you see. You got to trust the guys around you that they're going to get their job done, and just play fast. And I told them, like, hey, man, if you go out there and you let it rip, and you make a mistake, you throw a pick, it's a learning experience. It doesn't mean there's a lot of pluses that go through some of the tough lessons that come along the way. And I'd rather him stress that in these practices than go out there in a game and do something, that's foreign to him. So, but in regards to him scrambling, I just want whatever feels natural to him. That's what I want him to do, and then we can coach off that.
How do you develop that internal clock with a young quarterback? Is it keys based? Is it intuitive, instinctual? Like, how do you develop that?
That's a great question. I think it truly comes back down to the fundamentals and reading with your feet. And obviously, there's, football's not played in a vacuum where it's perfect conditions. Somebody may miss a block, and that's why you have to react, and that's why your fundamentals have to be great. You have to. We drill all these movements all the time so that you hope that when that situation arises in a game, they react a certain way. So it's just all those repetitions are so absolutely critical, whether it's in drill work, whether it's in the group work, whether it's in the teamwork. And, there's a lot involved in that.
We've heard you use indecisive equals ineffective for a long time.
Very good, Jason. You could come coach quarterbacks.
I use it in other sports too. But
Okay.
I'm curious, where is Jordan in that progress? We're talking about being decisive. Think about where he once was when you started using that phrase. How much growth have you seen in him being able to do that? Does that just come with time, or is there more to it?
I think it's exponential. It's hard to put a real value on that. And he's going to continue to learn and grow. And that's what's so exciting, because you've seen the jump, or we've seen the jumps that he's made, but ultimately you got to go out and do it on Sundays. So, and it's not just him. And I keep hitting that point. I mean, it's got to be everybody. Show me a good quarterback, and probably show you some good weapons around him.
You've been around Aaron Jones now for a pretty long time. I get that he's positive about just about everything, but he has been extremely vocal in his support of Jordan, and he's gone out there a couple times this offseason. How valuable is that? Like, you could have veterans who are looking at this process and going, we're a lot farther away from the Super Bowl than I thought we were a couple of years ago. It would be easy for there to be a little negativity that seeps in, and he seems to have been as supportive as you possibly could about the new quarterback.
Well, first of all, he's an exceptional teammate, first and foremost, exceptional man. You guys know how I feel about him. I can go on a soapbox every time I get up here to talk about him, because I can't say enough great things about him in terms of his approach, his work ethic, the way he treats his teammates, the way he treats whoever in our building. I'm sure with you guys as well. I mean, you guys see that, you witness that. But I think I don't think it's just talk. I think it's real. He believes. He believes in himself. He believes in his teammates. But ultimately, we got to put the work in. We got to put the work in. We got to continue to scratch and claw and try to get just better each and every day to give ourselves the best chance possible. We know how competitive this business is. The margin for error is extremely small in our business. And so, you know, we talk about it all the time. It's the ultimate team sport. We need everybody to be at their best to give us an opportunity to go out there and win. And but I love the approach of not only Aaron Jones, but of our team. The energy's been great. The effort's been great. We're continuing to stress the things that we are in total control of. And, you know, hopefully we continue to build upon that and have another great day today.
Two more, please.
Matt, what's your confidence level in Lucas Van Ness, and has he done anything over these, you know, first couple of practices or even over the last couple of months to stand out?
Well, he works at it, and again, there's going to be a learning curve. I think that's one of the positions defensively that is takes most guys a little bit of time, and we'll see how fast he acclimates to this league. And but you know, I love the worker. Again, we have not had pads on, so that limits what those guys are doing from a pass rush standpoint as well. And we preach to them all the time, like, we're not bull rushing right now. There's nobody. I don't want to see a offensive lineman get launched into a quarterback. It's harder to block when you don't have pads on. So I think we'll get a real indication of where he's at the longer we go through camp, and when we get some pads on and we get to see him in preseason games.
Speaking of putting in the work, did Jones and Devondre come up with a different set of punishments for the losers?
You know, that's what I messed up today in the team meeting. I didn't clarify what. So we'll get that taken care of when we're out there and stretch.
What's going to be the period to that?
It's going to be 2 minute, 2 minute and a half.
Do you ever get to choose the punishment?
I mean, I could definitely be an authoritarian and make sure that whatever I say goes. So, but I like to give these guys a little bit of ownership in it, and makes it a little bit more competitive, a little bit more fun.
Makes the up-downs better.
Yeah, that's exactly right.